Right, so there's a bit of a situation in Sudan happening right now. It's not looking very good at all. Fighting is broken out between two military factions there, functionally, the Sudanese army and a paramilitary group called the Rapid Support Forces, or RSF. They've worked together perfectly civilly for a long time now, but both are now wrestling for control of territory, and civil war is getting likelier by the day. And it's all because the army decided it wanted to integrate the RSF into their ranks. And because leaders of both of these military bodies want to be the one in control, wanted to be the boss, functionally, it's all down to an argument between two men at the end of the day. The army's General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and the RSF's General Mohamed Hamdan Dagalo. Ultimately, Sudan is a military-controlled state, so whoever wins this power struggle is in effect running the country, and they're fighting over it. Fighting began on the 15th of April in the capital Khartoum, and it's spread to other cities since then. It's only getting worse. It's only escalating. That's what we know so far. Now, as far as British nationals there go, they've been told by our government to get out of Sudan as fast as they can. Things are only expected to escalate, like I said. But the UK government has laid on evacuation flights to this end, but only until 6 p.m. tonight. Then they cease. If they haven't got all British nationals out by then, or they've been delayed by military action from getting to the given airfield, or they find their way blocked, they're going to be left behind, it would seem. They're going to be abandoned. That's our own citizens. And that was revealed by the inept, for a change, not grinning, but still very much an idiot, Deputy Prime Minister Oliver Dowden, because he had a mare of an interview on Sky yesterday in relation to this. He crowed repeatedly that this is the longest and largest evacuation to a Western country ever conducted. But it's been shit. People who have married Sudanese nationals, British nationals, who have gone out there and married somebody from Sudan, people without British passports now, who had no inclination they need one to come here or need a visa to leave anytime soon, married to British nationals, are being left behind on these airfields. Dowden's denied this, and he's blamed Border Force instead for not showing discretion. They're fleeing a bloody war zone now, and Brits who have made it to the airfield and won't be left behind can't even bring their partners with them. Such is the incompetence being shown here. And it's such an obvious thing. You can't help but feel this has been done on purpose. How could they have not thought, oh, a few British people might have married somebody from Sudan, especially with the track record towards foreign nationals this government has? A lot of people stuck out there, it also turns out, are NHS doctors. So a last-minute effort to allow them out, regardless of nationality, went as far as saying to them, if you can catch the last flight out, we'll let you get on it. But even that hasn't turned out to be true, as Sudanese doctors report being blocked from doing so and being trapped there. Having gone home for whatever reason, they're now being blocked from returning here to the UK, which, of course, is their normal place of work within our NHS. How caring of our government. If this is how Brits and their families and people who work here are getting treated, what about people inevitably seeking asylum, though? Sudanese nationals without necessarily any links to the UK who are trying to flee from all of this mess. What's going on there? Well, Sudan has for years been a place of civil unrest. We've had asylum seekers come from there for some time. It's not unusual to have people turning up on our shores from Sudan. And one such case was of a man who got here by the only way he could, of course. No legal routes to claim asylum exist, so he came over here via the small boat. Made a successful asylum claim because his story had been one that he had been helping people leave Sudan and escape their secret police force. Yes, Sudan has one of those. They're called the General Intelligence Service. He got caught and he got beaten, and his life was in danger once free of arrest, so his claim here for asylum was a successful one. He being legally resident here, wanting to get his family here, he couldn't. 3 years he's been here. He's been unable to bring his family here. Right now, his wife is still stuck out there in Sudan. His parents are stuck out there, his siblings. He's been unable to bring any of them here, despite the fact he is here perfectly legally. Yet now the country is on the brink of war, and theoretically, anyone in that country affected could make valid asylum claims to other countries. His family who want to join him still cannot, because there is no legal route for them to do so. And this is despite claims to the contrary, of course, from our utterly unhinged Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, saying otherwise repeatedly on TV. She has said people fleeing Sudan can make a claim for asylum to the UK via the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, the UNHCR, except for the small problem that they deny this. They've said there is no legal route or visa system via them to the UK from Sudan. This asylum route was one that was set up previously. It is one that does get used by this country, and it was done to help Afghans fleeing their country after the Afghan war. But the number of people helped to asylum via this route can be counted on your fingers. It does not exist whatsoever for Sudanese asylum seekers. This was backed up by Foreign Office Minister Andrew Mitchell just last weekend on Sophie Ridge's show, who admitted there is no legal route for asylum for those fleeing Sudan, and by his admission, he's calling Braverman a liar. There will apparently be changes to the illegal migration bill being made by Rishi Sunak to accommodate some legal routes here, but this has, of course, caused uproar behind him on his backbenches. There are so many of his own party, and not least Braverman herself on his front bench, keeping those behind him, the ERG types, on side, wanting the bill toughened up and not watered down. Of course, Braverman has kept up her lies despite all of this, telling Kay Burley just last Tuesday on Sky Again that these routes exist again. When Braverman was confronted with the reality that these people will be forced to try and get here via small boats, just like everyone else seems to have to, Braverman denied this was an inevitability. But of course it is. She's made it that way. The Tories have made it that way on purpose. The illegal migration bill itself may get delayed and scuppered as it heads to the House of Lords now. They absolutely hate this rancid bill. Thank goodness somebody in a position of power seems to. It's just a pity it's the unelected ones we're relying on for that again. Braverman maintains there is no good reason for anyone to get into a small boat to get here, but given it is their right to seek asylum here if they want to, they choose to, they have good reason to, then it's the only route possible to get here, because you can't claim asylum in the UK unless you stood on our shores. And instead of helping such people via their only way of getting here, even if they now come from Sudan, they will be dismissed as illegal automatically and deported to Rwanda should the government get their way with their bill. And she continued to tell Burley there were other ways, but there literally aren't. None. Not one. Any safe legal route for asylum has to be set up intentionally. It has to be an exception made to the law. Of course, like the one in Ukraine, which works wonderfully well for these white people coming from Ukraine, or the one that's supposedly in place from Afghanistan, which blatantly doesn't. We promised to take 5,000 Afghans a year after the war ended for the next 5 years, and we only make that quota by, surprise, surprise, allowing those Afghans who get here via small boats to stay here. The only way asylum routes to the UK exist without having to land on our shores first is if the government intentionally set one up. That should be the question asked to Braverman. Nobody's asking it that I've seen, though. When is the Ukraine-style asylum route for the Sudanese going to be set up? She either gives an answer or fudges, and if she fudges, then your answer is the small boats. And given Braverman has been shredded this week by dehumanising those crossing small boats once again, as well by one of her Tory colleagues, really the question I proposed is a moot one anyway. She called those coming here via small boats as having values at odds with our country. That's a little bit racist, isn't it? Of all people to call her out for her dehumanising language, though, possibly the last person you'd expect would be Jonathan Gullis. But it's true, she's even gone too far for him now. And this was a guy who once suggested housing migrants in tents. People are fleeing a war zone in the offing. We've seen it happen before. We know the signs. We're taking action to get our own people out, but very strictly only our own. Spouses left behind. People who have come here to work in our health service left behind. Families separated. And even as the world erupts in fire around these people, Braverman is in effect just pointing to those small boats as the only option to get here from us. If they can get there, if they can survive that crossing whilst telling everyone else there are other options, which she knows damn well she's lying to us all, the cruelty and inhumanity and dishonesty of that woman has literally no limits. I absolutely hate her, and I have nothing but absolute disdain and disgust for anyone supportive of her. Even Jonathan Gullis, of all people, cannot stomach it. Can you? Thanks for watching. If you appreciated this video, please do hit like and subscribe, leave a comment, and hit the notification bell too, so you don't miss the next one. Also, look out for me on social media and other interesting stuff by clicking on the Linktree link in the comments below, and I will see you next time. Cheers, folks.